Hello, BookTube. A little while ago, Jedediah at Mayberry Book Club did a tag about me. He did a tag in which he wonders, has Steve read all of these books? Because I read an enormous amount. I have for a very long time. So, so in a random conversation, in a random tour of a random library, I have lost count of how many people have said, "What? You've read that book? I've never met anyone else who's even heard of it." So he wondered, and he pulled down a bunch of books off his shelf and asked himself that. And because he asked you that, it became a tag, and the tag went viral. And lots of people have tried their hand at this. And the number of books that Steve has not read has become the goal. It's become the tally. And that number has fluctuated from very low to moderate, 4 or 5, and we currently, the universe is being ruled by the Francophile reader, who has, I think, 5. But contestants keep coming in, so we're going to do another one today. This is from Alva at Seriela, and this is her attempt at the Has Steve Read It tag. And I think she gives, I think I count 11 books. So we're gonna see how she does. So, and she is from Puerto Rico, and all of these books are Puerto Rico centered in some way or other, which is fascinating in its own right. Like most right-thinking Americans on the mainland, I feel that the rest of the United States owes Puerto Rico a massive apology for the boorish behavior of Donald Trump when the island was struck by a massive killer hurricane, and suddenly, let's just say the presidential response was much less than desired, and sordid, and also I would say bigoted, but because I'm not going to make a rant out of it, but you know perfectly well, you and I know perfectly well, that when that hurricane struck Puerto Rico, Donald Trump had to be informed that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. He did not know that. You know he did not know that. But anyway, I have been there, and I have scarcely ever met more welcoming people, or I might add, seen a more beautiful place. So we're going to see what the books are like. So the first one is Memoirs of a Korean Queen by Lady Hong. Nothing to do with Puerto Rico. But also a no. I have not read this. It sounds fantastic from her brief description, but I haven't got it. I don't think I've ever even come across it. Then the next one is Family Installments by Edward Rivera, and this is from the 1980s, and I have read it. I do remember it. I remember it being vivid. I really enjoyed it. So that is a yes. Then we have Puerto Rico, The Trials of the Oldest Colony in the World by Jose Monge, and this is a no. I haven't read it. Seems I looked it up a bit. I'm probably massacring his last name, but I looked it up a bit and really liked the look of it. As usual with this tag, few of these books are tempting me on my own TBR. That's been one of the fun things about watching people do a variation on this tag, is that you're not only seeing books that never get mentioned on BookTube, but stuff that you might want to read. There are a number of those on this list. Then the next one is by Manuel Suarez, and it's 2 lynchings of Cerro, Maravilla, and I haven't read it. And again, the description makes it sound fascinating. Then the Unsolved Case of Dr. Cornelius Rhoads and Indictment. This one strikes me as, I mean, I don't at all mind the emphasis on Puerto Rico, but this one strikes me as a little bit iffy. I don't think that many people would ever have had a chance to hear about this book. I had never heard about it. Again, the description makes it sound fascinating, but no, I haven't read it. Then the next one is American Gunfight by Stephen Hunter and John Bainbridge, and this is, yes, it does have a Puerto Rican connection. It was an attempted assassination of Harry Truman, and the would-be assassins were Puerto Rican, but this book is not very good. This book does the basic bare bones connecting of facts, but the whole story behind this whole thing and the heroics that stopped it from succeeding is far more interesting than I remember it being portrayed in this book. So that's a shame. So if the subject of, like for instance, assassination attempts on U.S. presidents, if that subject interests you, this book will be the one and only one that comes up for this subject. And I can sort of understand that, but if you read it, keep in mind the real story in greater detail is much more interesting than, much more complicated than in this book. But that's a yes. American Gunfight is a yes. Then the next one is Reconsidering the Insular Cases, an anthology of American imperialism, of the American flirtations with actual imperial governments. And Olga isn't completely right when she suggests that I would be interested in that subject, but I've never read this anthology. Then the next one is the only other one on this list where I might say that it's a bit of a stretch, a bit of dirty pool, because it's not only Puerto Rican, it's extremely specialized. There's virtually no chance that I would have read this book in the normal course of things, and of course I haven't. It's Signing in Puerto Rican by Andres Torres. Then the next one is Puerto Rico's Revolt for Independence by Olga Himenez de Wagenheim. There's a wedding I would have liked to attend. And this, again, like with the Trials of the Oldest Colony in the World, these two strike me as must-read books about Puerto Rico. They sound fascinating, and I haven't got to them. I haven't read them. So that is also a no. Then this next one is a bit of a blot of shame on my part, because this is one that I should have read. The others, maybe the others sound like they're the ones you want to read on the subject. That if you make a small shelf of histories of Puerto Rico, it sounds like those two books, Puerto Rico, The Trials of the Oldest Colony in the World, and Puerto Rico's Revolt for Independence, would be books on that shelf that you would have to read. But this next one touches on my favorite time period in American history. This is Dying to Better Themselves by Olive Sr., and it's about workers on the Panama Canal. And I am sure that I have encountered the title of this book in bibliographies about the Panama. I've read a lot about the Panama Canal and the men who designed it and the politics that got it done and that almost stopped it from getting done. And the imperialism of the time, the international policies of the time. I've read a lot about that, but I haven't read this book. And that it feels like a real omission, something I should have got to. And then the last one on her list is War Against All Puerto Ricans by Nelson Dennis. And again, I have not read this. This whole list is a perfect example of how of the easy way to do this list in a way that is fair but also guarantees that I won't have read any of the books, is just to concentrate on your region. She points out that all of these things have been published in English, and that's true, but unless you specialized in Puerto Rican history and Puerto Rican current events, Puerto Rican sociology, I don't think you'd have read more than a handful of these. I certainly have not. And I think any region could do that. You could do the same thing with the Maritime provinces or Baja California or anything like that. You go to the local interest section of your historical society and get 8, 10, 11 books that I haven't read. That would be fairly easy to do. But anyway, a lot of these sound fascinating, and that is her edition of this tag. And if you were keeping track at home, you realize that the new record has been set incredibly high. It's not just that she's won. It's that she got 9 out of 11. 9 is now the high number. That is almost unchallengeable, I would think, unless you do the same thing. If you do the same thing, if you say, well, what about these 11 books on Oklahoma history? There's a chance. There's a chance. Although some of these I have no good excuse. Some of these, a good half of these are not at all, by any stretch of the imagination, regional titles. But anyway, there you go. The universe has a new ruler. So congratulations. We are now at 9 out of 11. So that is the latest installment of the Has Steve Read It tag. I'm gonna wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.